This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has praised the level of development achieved by the Defense Ministry or defense industry, stressing that it is the driving force behind national industry and insisting on increasing the integration rate of the defense industry to 50 and 60%. Algeria has hailed the unanimous adoption by the United Nations Security Council of a resolution providing for the renewal of the mandate of the UN Disengagement Observer Force (UNDOF) and reiterated its call for the respect of Syria's territorial integrity. And as the Euro-Mediterranean Observatory for Human Rights has once again called on the international community to stop the genocide taking place in Gaza, 3 Palestinians were killed in airstrikes carried out today against the territory. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. First in our news, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has praised the level of development achieved by the defense industry, stressing that it is the driving force behind national industry and insisting on increasing the integration rate of the defense industry to 50 and 60%. President Tebboune made the statement during his visit to various stands of companies taking part in the 32nd Algerian Production Fair held at the Pan Maritime Exhibition Hall in Algiers, where he presided over the opening ceremony in which 600 exhibitors representing various sectors are taking place. After a presentation of the activities of the Algerian companies and businesses by the Minister of Trade, the President visited the stand of the National Defense Ministry, where he stressed that the military industry is a model to follow and a driving force of national industry. He added that the Army has reached a level of industry that he would like to see reached by other companies, praising the high rate of integration in the military industry. Let's listen to the President of the Republic.
الصناعة العسكرية نموذج. C'est pour ça que j'insiste très souvent pour que ce soit la locomotive de l'industrialisation du pays. اللي ظن بلي حاجة صعبة ومستحيل يجي يشوف الجيش. ياخذ النموذج توت بوسيبل. مع هذا بعض القطاع اللي العالم كله يستورد. pas faire exception, mais une intégration d'un véhicule qui marque notamment pour les pièces usinées, pour une intégration au moins de 50-60%.
The President of the Republic also insisted on the quality reached by the national food products in recent years. While visiting the stand of Label Group for Food Products, the President of the Republic stressed that export should be considered only once the national market needs were met.
C'est vrai qu'il y a beaucoup de produits algériens, des rouages في الخارج, ولكن ce produit-là, c'est l'Algérie qui gagne, c'est l'Algérie qui avance. On est fiers de vous, pour la simple raison que في هذه la foire هذه, en 2017-2018, on produisait même pas la mayonnaise. نستورد الكيتشوب المايونيز نستورد البطاطا كل شيء نستورد. اليوم الانتاج تاعنا وصل للعالميه. جو ريميرسي سو كي برودويز لا مايونيز elle est d'excellente qualité, elle est très exportée. المرجان c'est un produit il a fallu le contentieux باش الناس تعرفوا تصبح معروف. الحمد لله. Continue.
Visiting the stand of the Algerian Economic Renewal Council, CREA, the President of the Republic insisted on the necessary entry into service of the one-stop shop before January 2025, specifying that the investor must only deal with the one-stop shop rather than the municipality or the provincial authorities.
أنا قلتها je me suis engagé اللي يبغي يستثمر ما يشوف بلدية ما يشوف دائرة ما يشوف ولاية ما يشوف هذه ما يشوف ديريكت الناس اللي يهمهم الناس الانترلوكيتور اي الشفافية اللي يبغي يراقب يراقب.
The head of state underlined on the occasion the efforts that should be made by all so as to reach the victorious Algeria that every Algerian aspires for.
أنا هذه هي الجزائر اللي نحبوها، الجزائر اللي نحاولوا يعني نبذلوا كل المجهودات باش نوصلوا لهذه الجزائر المنتصرة كما نقولوا. Il faut oser, il faut oser et il faut respecter le partenaire. تسمع؟ لا كاليتي سي لا كاليتي، سبونا في لا كاليتي احنا نتبعها. مطنا فيما يخصك انت اذا كانت توسيعه تحتاج حاجه اخرى ولا يا اوكان بروبليم وزير الصناعه راه يسمع ان شاء الله نبروندرا ان شاء الله.
The President of the Republic recalled the policy advocated by the state in recent years of encouraging local production has made it possible to reduce the import bill by 40%, stressing the need to make no distinction between military, public and private companies, given that they all contribute to Algerian production. He also stressed the need to improve people's living standard and conditions through local production. The Minister of the Interior, Local Authorities and Town and Country Planning, Brahim Merad, was received by his Tunisian counterpart Khaled Nouri as part of his working visit to Tunisia. The meeting was an opportunity to pay tribute to the level of bilateral cooperation between the two sectors and the progress made in the various fields related to the skills of the two ministerial sectors, reflecting the political will of the President and the privileged relations between the two countries. On the occasion, the two ministers reaffirmed their commitment to pursue joint action to effectively tackle the various common challenges in terms of both security and development. Earlier, in his address to the ministerial meeting of the 5th Ordinary Session of the African Union Specialist Technical Committee on the Civil Service, Local Authorities, Urban Development and Decentralization, Mr. Merad stressed that Algeria is aware of the priority nature of local development issues, has undertaken far-reaching reforms of local authorities. The Minister of Health, Abdel Haq Seyhi, has met the Zimbabwean Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Amran Muzwera, in Harare, Zimbabwe. During a working visit or session, the Zimbabwean Minister of Foreign Affairs expressed his great satisfaction at the common positions and uniting the two countries, praising the pioneering role played by Algeria at the continental level and its constant efforts to ensure peace and security in Africa. He also highlighted the special relations between Algeria and Zimbabwe and the prospects for bilateral cooperation in a number of areas. For his part, Mr. Seyhi, in his capacity as special envoy of the President of the Republic, Mr. Majid Tebboune, to the President of Zimbabwe, spoke of the historic relations linking Algeria to Zimbabwe. Algeria has hailed the unanimous adoption by the United Nations Security Council of a resolution providing for the renewal of the mandate of the UN Disengagement Observer Force, UNDOF, and reiterated its call for the respect of the territorial integrity of Syria. Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Mr. Amar Benjama, said that this resolution came at a critical moment for Syria and the region as a whole. In this regard, Mr. Benjama emphasized that the resolution emphasizes that no military force, military equipment, or personnel should be in the area of separation or buffer zone, with the exception of those of UNDOF, adding that the presence of Zionist forces in this area is illegal and constitutes a flagrant violation of the 1974 disengagement agreement, as well as the relevant security resolutions, including the one which was just adopted. Let's listen to Mr. Benjama.
The resolution underscores that, and I quote, there should be no military forces, military equipment, or personnel in the area of separation other than those of UNDOF. End of quote. Therefore, the actual presence of Israeli forces in the area is illegal and constitutes a flagrant violation of the 1974 disengagement agreement and relevant Security Council resolutions.
Mr. Benjama reiterated on the occasion Algeria's firm position on the Golan Heights, which is considered an occupied Syrian territory, adding that Algeria renews its full support for UNDOF and its peacekeepers, whose security must be guaranteed by all parties.
Algeria reaffirms its steadfast position that the Golan Heights is an occupied Syrian territory. Furthermore, Algeria reiterates its full support of UNDOF and for its peacekeepers, whose safety and security must be ensured by all parties.
Recalling that the fragile situation in Syria requires our collective solidarity and support, Mr. Benjama called on the international community to put aside its rivalries and competitions to avoid a catastrophic scenario in Syria and the region, stressing that efforts must be pulled to preserve the independence, unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Syria while establishing new institutions for a better future for the country. And as the Euro-Mediterranean Observatory for Human Rights has once again called on the international community to stop the genocide now taking place in Gaza, 3 Palestinians were killed in airstrikes carried out today against the territory. Mariam Bershi has more details.
Several others were wounded in the attack, which targeted a locality west of the town of Gaza. Earlier, Pope Francis condemned as brutal and heartbreaking the attack perpetrated against the central area of Jabalia, which killed 10 people, including 7 children, all members of the same family. According to the civilian defense, 15 other people were wounded in the attack. Meanwhile, the Euro-Mediterranean Observatory for Human Rights described the recent Israeli attack on a mosque in Gaza as a tantamount to a war crime and a crime against humanity. In a report, it rejected last month's attack as a blatant violation of humanitarian law and the international law that provided for the respect of worship places. It denounced the Israeli attack as a crime against humanity, which is part of a military campaign which has been systematically targeting the civilian population for over 1 year. In this connection, UNICEF affirmed that 96% of Gaza's women and children could not meet their nutritional needs on account of the continued Israeli bombardment on the Gaza Strip. The UNICEF communication specialist Rosalia Bolen denounced the siege imposed by the Israeli occupying authorities against the territory, arguing that only 65 lorries entered Gaza. This came as Palestine's representative to the UN, Riyad Mansour, once again stressed the necessity for the countries of the world to commit to implementing the UN resolutions to end Israel's occupation. He was quoted by the news agency Wafa saying that the Israeli occupying authorities still refuse to abide by Resolution 2735, providing for an immediate ceasefire despite the major support expressed across the world to the Palestinian issue.
And the Moroccan Front in support of Palestine and against normalization has called for demonstrations to be staged in various Moroccan cities to mark the signing by Morocco 4 years ago of normalization agreements with the Israeli occupation. The front has called for mobilization to protest against the normalization, claiming that it has been imposed against the will of the Moroccan people. It also denounced the stubbornness of the authorities in pursuing the process of normalization despite the 15 months that have passed since the start of the war of extermination against Gaza in particular. The front also condemned the prosecutions, trials and arrest of several of its activists because of their support for the Palestinian cause, their opposition to the normalization and their denunciation of Israeli massacres. It affirmed and reaffirmed its commitment to continuing the struggle until normalization fails and to continuing the support for the Palestinian resistance. The front declared that the normalization of relations with Israeli occupation constitutes a betrayal of the Palestinian cause, accusing the state of having crossed all the red lines without taking into account the popular opposition. He denounced the use of repression against free voices with the recent arrest of numerous falsely accused pro-Palestinian activists with the aim of silencing their opposition. The Moroccan body for the support of the nation's causes for its part called for demonstrations to be held in several Moroccan cities under the slogan "Normalization is a crime," denouncing the massacres and starvation policy targeting women and children in Gaza, notably in the north. And with this last piece of news, we come to the end of this news bulletin. Time now for weekly programs, starting with my colleague Mariam Bershi with her weekly program devoted today to Japan history, and it will be followed by another program by my colleague Jamal Silmani on the eastern province of Constantine and the museum that is being held there. With this, we come to the end of this news bulletin. We'll meet you again tomorrow for traditional news bulletin. Until then, stay tuned to Radio Algeria International, and bye-bye for now. To travel back in time.